Hinton was a physician and a bacteriologist. He grew up in a background that most would say did not set him up for success. His parents were formerly enslaved, so his childhood was not as favorable as others, but he still found a way to attend Harvard. He graduated in 1905 and proceeded to teach at other colleges in the area for a few years. He furthered his education at the University of Chicago and then proceeded to enter the Harvard Medical School and get his MD degree. However, he turned down a scholarship for African American college students with the goal of attaining the Wigglesworth Scholarship, which he did receive. He wanted to specialize in surgery, however many hospitals turned him down due to his race, which then led him to pursue a career in the laboratory. He worked for 3 years as an assistant and then started to do autopsies on syphilis patients. After years of work, he developed a test to detect syphilis and it became named the Hinton test. The Harvard Medical School was eventually converted to the Massachusetts Department of Public Health. He was then named the assistant director and had a building in the area named after him. He began teaching in 1921 to 1949 and became a clinical professor, which made him the first African American professor to teach at Harvard. William Hinton was born in Chicago, but his family moved to Kansas not long after his birth. It was there in Kansas where he graduated high school and became the youngest to do so. He attended University of Kansas following high school, but after 2 years he left due to a lack of funds. He then entered Harvard College in 1903. At Harvard, Hinton wished to be a surgeon, but he couldn't find an opening job because of his race. So, he decided to move on to laboratory work and pursue pathology. In this career, he wouldn't have to compete with white physicians. In this new field, he created many relationships with academic mentors, which helped a lot because connections were an essential part of the professional field. In 1909, Hinton enrolled at Harvard Medical School. He also turned down the scholarship for African American students and chose to compete for the scholarships offered to everyone. He competed for them and won the Wigglesworth and Hayden scholarships 2 years in a row. After attending Harvard Medical School for only 3 years, he graduated with honors in 1912. Hinton was most famous for his work with syphilis and the test that he developed for it. In 1912, Hinton was working part-time as a volunteer assistant in the Department of Pathology at Massachusetts General Hospital. For 3 years as an assistant, he performed autopsies on all persons suspected of having syphilis. He then worked at Wasserman Laboratory, where he developed a new serological test for syphilis known as the Hinton test. Before the Hinton test, there was the Wasserman test, which was invented in 1906. This test included taking a sample of blood or cerebrospinal fluid and introducing it to the antigen cardiolipin, which was extracted from bovine muscle or heart. The reaction that the fluid would have with the antigen would indicate the severity of the condition. This test showed that scientists knew that the spinal fluid was different in syphilis patients, but they didn't know how it could be used as a diagnostic tool yet. In Hinton's time at the Wasserman Laboratory, he became an expert on syphilis. In 1927, Hinton developed a flocculation test for syphilis. He also worked with another scientist to make another test using spinal fluid, which would become known as the Davies-Hinton test. This new test from Hinton was a big jump for science because the Wasserman test was long, painful, and hazardous, and although it worked, it was not very convenient. Hinton's new test was much quicker and less painful, which is why it became the standard for as long as it did. Another bonus to Hinton's test was that it reduced the number of false positives that the original Wasserman test would have. For many years, the test was praised for its speed, ease of use, and repeatability. In 1934, the U.S. Public Health Service named Hinton's flocculation test the best technique available for diagnosing syphilis. For many more decades, the test was used until it was finally replaced by much more modern and advanced measures.